firm believer that having to use your identification to basically use the internet in any slight way or form is a little bit too wacky for me. Maybe I'm a little bit too old at this point or something like that, but I just think it's a little out there. It's a little far fetched. I think every information in the world should be free information to go around, whether that's YouTube, Google, whatever it is. But I did see this article today, and I think I actually agree with it a good amount. Now, you might be asking, well, what is this article about? It's about showing your identification specifically in online gaming to prevent cheating. Now, I'm going to say I agree with this. There's a couple things I want to talk about though. So first off, I disagree. Let's say why I disagree first. So I disagree because I think online games should be just basically for everybody. I think no matter your age, your social status, whatever it is, you should be able to play online games. And unfortunately, I deal with people on a day-to-day basis that have real life issues that are unable to get an identification. Because at least in America, and at least where I live in America, we do not give identification out for free. And there is like your state ID, and in a lot of states you can get your ID for free, and that is correct. But you still have to go in, you still have to have your birth certificate, you still have to have a proof of address, you still have to have all this stuff to even get an identification. And I think with something like that, there's tons and tons and tons of people who play online games currently that are unable to essentially get that because of various circumstances. They could have had all their stuff burned in a fire. Someone could have stolen it. They could have just lost it. Like there's a lot of stuff for this, and it's really hard to get stuff like your birth certificate, your social security, stuff like that back towards yourself. So I think in that way, it's way, way too difficult to have this in a prolonged sense or in like every single game because it's not needed in every single game, right? This would mainly be for like your Call of Duty, your CSGO, your Valorant, stuff like that. I don't think, they're going to be popping this out on like Roblox or something like that. They could, but Roblox is a kid's game, so it wouldn't make sense to basically fault 99% of your player base so that way your 1 to 2% of adults who play the game can be satisfied with no cheaters, essentially. So I think there is like that level, right? Where they're not thinking about the kids who play the games. They're not thinking about the people who just can't get identification. They're not thinking about any of that. But on the flip side of this, we're going to use Escape from Tarkov because I think it's the best example. Escape from Tarkov, you have to do a lot of verification just to buy the game. It is a Russian game that you are accessing through a Russian account, basically. So most cards in America, as of the current date and time, do not accept buying Tarkov. Now, do banks still accept it? Yeah, 100%. But there's a lot of steps you have to go through. When I was first getting Tarkov, I had to like verify my phone number, verify my email. I had to purchase it. Then I had to call my bank and verify with my bank in order to purchase it as well because they flagged that as fraudulent essentially because of like the website that it was on. And I think Tarkov, this would be a great thing. Now, would it add a extra step? 100%. But it would also add something where when they ban someone, they ID ban them instead. So there's no IP banning. There's no ban ban and then you make a second account and that's it. It's like no, you're banned. You're permanent, and they have your ID. And they literally what they do is they put it in like a database and they're like, this ID if it pops up, this person's permanently banned. They can buy the game again, but they'll be banned if they buy it on a different account. It doesn't matter. I think that is a good thing, right? And I've actually kind of said this for years, where I think under the circumstances of high-end competitive games that are definitely for older folk, not saying that young people can't play them, but people, they're built for people that are supposed to be 18 plus. I think this is perfectly fine, 100%. Because as long as it's not affecting day-to-day usage, then I think that's perfectly fine. Because and we made a video about this the other day. I think it's absolutely ridiculous for anywhere, any country, any social status, whatever it is, to require any form of identification to learn anything. I think learning should be free. But under the circumstance where it's like you're technically going to be playing an adult game, right? You're going to be playing an adult game. It's not that big of a deal. And there could also be ways around this too, for kids, I would say, where they could make it where you click a button and let's say it says, I am under 18. And it says, oh, okay, you're under 18. We need your parents' ID or we need something like that. And it kind of adds that step on where like maybe your parents might be a little bit annoyed. But if your parents are buying you Call of Duty anyways, they're probably not going to care. Like, let's be realistic. All of us that had the parents back in the day who didn't want to get GTA or something like that, it's like there was nothing stopping it at that point. It's like it was just them saying they didn't want GTA. So if they're already going to buy you GTA, if they're already going to buy you Call of Duty or something like that, they probably aren't going to care that they have to put in their identification, basically just saying, hey, it's fine. Now, I'm going to say a lot of the people who disagree with this are probably one of two people. It's just one, people that don't want the extra steps, which I think is fair. I think extra steps can be really annoying, especially in terms of like once again like Tarkov, where you already have to do 500 steps to just verify if you're a real person. But the other people saying they don't want this are the people who think that the government's going to track them because their identification is on a game or the game is going to track them. They do that anyways. Like when you log in to the internet, you are instantly pinged on a location. That's what your IP is. It literally is a ping to your exact like coordinates. So they know exactly where you are at all times. Now, obviously, logging in under usernames and stuff like that changes it a little bit, and identification does make it a little bit more scary. But I think like more verification is fine at the end of the day, you know. And I will say one thing that I can see being really, really, really bad about this is DOSing and doxing. So with DOSing and doxing, you're basically putting someone's personal information online or pulling it or you're making their Wi-Fi go down, like stuff like that. Basically, like you're just messing with their actual personal life. You would have to really, really crack down on doxing and DOSing, like as a whole, no matter what your platform is, if you do decide to do identification verification. Because usually on your ID has your date of birth, has where you live, has your height, your eye color, your full legal name, like, it has everything on it. So I think in that sort of sense, it's insanely bad because I don't believe game devs are good enough yet to prevent doxing and DOSing like completely. That or if they are good enough, we're not hiring them to companies. And it's just how it's been for a long time. The companies have gotten very, very lazy with game development as it is. So adding this layer of like identification that they're gonna have to really slam their head into to make sure that it runs smoothly and people aren't, getting their address posted on a Reddit thread because they 360 no scope someone in Call of Duty, I think is going to be a big thing if they decide to do something like this. That's why I say it can be good if you do it under the circumstances that I was talking about, but it could also be very, very, very bad at the same time. Yeah, I mean that's just my personal opinion on it, though. Is the player safe ID? I guess you could say. This is kind of the article I was looking at, by the way. So, um, in the article, basically, a new survey has suggested that majority of players would be willing to verify their identity online if it meant being able to play games in a cheat-free environment. The 2025 study carried out by PlaySafe ID polled over 2,000 people in the US and UK. The report found that 73% of players would accept an identified verification process to ensure matches are free of cheaters. And I bet most, if not all, of the people that said that they would be willing to do this were people, if I had to guess, like 42 and under. Anyone that was above like the age of like 42, yeah, I would guess that there was probably like some disdain because working in customer service, just something you kind of learn, and this is relevant. So something you just kind of learn in customer service is older folk hate anything that like requires their ID to be looked at, scanned, touched, licked, whatever it is. They even hate having to use their card. I've talked to multiple people that like they're like, oh, I don't want to scan my debit card to pay for this because the government will track me. Now, I'm being dead serious too. Like there's people, so many people like this. So under that circumstance, that's probably where a lot of the leeway comes off of this is people that are like, I don't want to be tracked. I don't want to have any issues like that. So the games would really have to crack down on stuff like that. The report also highlighted that 42% of respondents had considered quitting a game entirely due to the persistence of cheating, while 83% said they would be more likely to play a title if it was credibly promoted as cheat free. 83% is kind of crazy. I feel like, ooh, man, that must be mean. There's like a lot of people that are cheaters. I feel, like how many people did they ask that were cheaters? Because if you're a normal player, no normal player wants to go up against a cheater. Just period. Like if you ask 100 random people on the street if they would prefer to like have someone cheat in a game or not, they would probably say no. If you ask 100 people, like I guarantee 100 people would say no. And maybe like two people would say like, oh, I don't really care because they want to be like cool or something like that. And then obviously 42%, I think that's fair. Probably even more. Realistically, it's probably more, but it's probably also like, well, how did I quit the game? I'm addicted to this. Like, how many times have I played Tarkov, right, on like the other channel, and I've been literally aimbotted off a spawn, and I've been like, yeah, I'm deleting this game, and then I put like 500 more hours in. Because it kind of just is what it is. Like, you don't run into so many cheaters these days, especially. Um, First person shooters have investigated substantial resources in tackling. Yeah, I think Call of Duty and Apex Legends would probably be like big ones. Call of Duty, Apex Legends, Tarkov, Valorant, Rainbow Six Siege. Dude, Rainbow Six Siege would go crazy. I bet ask the Rainbow Six Siege community if they'd be willing to do this. Only people from the Rainbow Six Siege community. Almost 99% of them, if they're not already cheating, would say, yeah, 100%, I'll verify my ID. Like that's the crazy part is like they're probably asking people who like cheat or like people that just don't really run into cheaters and they're like, yeah, who cares? Like, haha, you're cheating, you know? But yeah, that's just kind of my opinion on it at the end of the day. Is like it is what it is. If it happens, I think it could be really good. But if it does happen, they're gonna have to really crack down on it. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below about potentially having to show your ID, probably the front and the back for anti cheat essentially, and then basically they would just ban your ID if you get caught cheating. Um, I think it'd be really interesting. It would also make ban appeals like 10 times easier too. I feel if that makes sense, because you'd literally be able to be like, yeah, my account got hacked, and they'd be like, well, how do you know that it got hacked? Because the guy took my ID off. Make it where like every single time you have to sign into your account, you have to show your ID. There you go. The guy signs into your account from a different location, has to show his ID. Oh, he gets caught instantly. Steam's gonna send a full SWAT team to his house or something. I don't know, but that's all I want to talk about. Have a wonderful night, guys. Peace.